What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors walks onto a talk show stage and refuses to back down from a host who thinks she can say whatever she wants? It only took 48 seconds for Whoopi Goldberg to realize she had picked the wrong person to challenge. This is the story of the day Samuel L. Jackson got kicked off The View, and why everyone watching knew exactly who was in the wrong. The studio lights were bright that morning. Samuel L. Jackson walked out onto the stage with that cool confidence he's known for. The audience clapped and cheered. He sat down in the guest chair, smiled at the panel, and prepared for what he thought would be a normal interview about his latest film project. He had no idea what was about to happen. Whoopi started the conversation. She welcomed him to the show. Everything seemed fine at first. They talked about his new movie. They talked about his career. Samuel was relaxed, telling stories, making the audience laugh. The other hosts, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, Sarah Haynes, and Alyssa Farah Griffin, were all smiling and nodding along. It was going exactly like these interviews usually go. Then something shifted. Whoopi leaned forward in her chair. Her whole demeanor changed. She had this look on her face, like she was about to make a point, and she didn't care if anyone liked it or not. She interrupted Samuel right in the middle of a story he was telling about working with a young actor on set. "You know what, though," Whoopi said, cutting him off completely. "I've been hearing some things about the way you handle yourself on set. People have been talking." The studio went quiet. You could feel the tension immediately. Samuel stopped talking. He looked at Whoopi with this expression that was calm, but you could tell he was surprised. The other hosts looked at each other. Joy's eyes went wide. Sunny shifted in her seat uncomfortably. "I'm sorry, what?" Samuel said. His voice was steady, but there was an edge to it now. "Yeah, I'm just saying," Whoopi continued. "There are stories out there about you being difficult to work with, about you demanding things, about you thinking you're above everyone else on set." Samuel sat back in his chair. He took a breath. The audience was completely silent now. Now, everyone watching could tell this was not part of the planned interview. This was going somewhere nobody expected. "Whoopi," Samuel said slowly, "I don't know what stories you're talking about, but if you've got something to say to me, say it directly. Don't talk around it." "I am being direct," Whoopi said. "I'm telling you what I've heard." "From who?" Samuel asked. "That's not important." Whoopi waved her hand. "What's important is the perception." "The perception?" Samuel's voice got a little harder. "So you're basing this on perception, on rumors, not on anything factual?" "I'm basing it on multiple sources," Whoopi said. But she wouldn't say who those sources were. Joy tried to jump in. "Maybe we should talk about the movie," she said with a nervous laugh. "Samuel, tell us about your character in—" But Whoopi wasn't done. She waved her hand at Joy like she was swatting away a fly. No, I want to address this," Whoopi said. "Because I think it's important. I think when you're at your level, Samuel, you have a responsibility. And I'm not sure you're always living up to that responsibility." Sarah tried next. "Whoopi, I think maybe this is something that could be discussed in a different way," she said carefully. You could hear in her voice that she was trying to de-escalate the situation. Whoopi turned and looked at Sarah with this dismissive expression. "I'm talking to Samuel right now," she said sharply. Samuel's jaw tightened. He leaned forward now, matching Whoopi's energy. "Let me tell you something," he said. His voice was calm but firm. "I've been in this industry for decades. I show up on time. I know my lines. I treat every single person on set with respect, from the director to the person bringing me coffee. So I don't know where you're getting your information from. But it's wrong." "That's not what I heard," Whoopi shot back. "Then maybe you need better sources," Samuel replied. The audience started to murmur. Some people were gasping. Others were whispering to each other. The energy in the room had completely transformed. What started as a friendly morning talk show had turned into something else entirely. Sunny decided to try to help. "I think what Whoopi might be trying to say," Sunny started, speaking carefully, "is that there's always room for all of us to reflect on how we show up in our work environments." Samuel turned to look at Sunny. "I appreciate that," he said, "but that's not what she said. She came at me with accusations based on gossip. There's a difference between having a conversation about growth and attacking someone's character on live television." Whoopi laughed. Actually laughed. It was this sharp, dismissive sound. "Oh, so now you're being attacked?" she said. "Come on, Samuel. Don't be so sensitive. I'm just asking questions." "No," Samuel said, his voice getting stronger. "You're not asking questions. You're making statements. You're telling me and everyone watching that I'm difficult and demanding, and that I think I'm above people. Those aren't questions. Those are accusations." Alyssa spoke up now. "I think we're all just trying to have an honest conversation here," she said. But even as she said it, you could tell she didn't really believe it. She looked uncomfortable. They all did, except for Whoopi. "An honest conversation?" Samuel repeated. He shook his head. "An honest conversation happens when someone comes to you privately with concerns. An honest conversation happens when there's mutual respect. This?" He gestured around the table. "This is something else." Whoopi's face hardened. "Well, maybe if you can't handle the heat, you shouldn't have come on the show," she said. That's when things really escalated. "Handle the heat?" Samuel said. His voice rose for the first time. Not shouting, but definitely louder. "I've handled heat my entire career. I've dealt with real challenges, real obstacles, real discrimination in this industry. I'm not afraid of tough conversations. But what I won't do is sit here and let you disrespect me based on rumors and gossip that you can't even substantiate." The audience started clapping. At first it was just a few people, but then more joined in. They were clapping for Samuel, supporting him. Whoopi looked surprised by this. She clearly didn't expect the audience to turn against her. "Oh, so now the audience is involved," Whoopi said, sounding annoyed. Joy tried again to redirect. Okay, let's everyone take a breath here," she said. "We can talk about this calmly." But Samuel was standing up now. "No, I don't think we can," he said. "Because what's happening here is clear. I came on this show as a guest. I came to talk about my work, to share some stories, to have a good time. Instead, I'm being ambushed with vague accusations that Whoopi won't even back up with specifics." "Ambushed?" Whoopi scoffed. "You're being so dramatic." "Am I?" Samuel said. "Tell me how this would have gone if I had done this to you. If you came on a show I was hosting, and I started telling you that I'd been hearing things about you, that people were saying you're difficult, that you think you're above everyone, and then when you asked for specifics, I had nothing. How would you feel?" Whoopi waved her hand dismissively. "That's completely different." "How is it different?" Samuel challenged. "Explain to me how it's different." "Because I'm the host," Whoopi said. Like that explained everything. Samuel shook his head slowly. "Being the host doesn't give you the right to make up stories about your guests. It doesn't give you permission to spread gossip as if it's fact. And it definitely doesn't mean you can avoid backing up your claims when someone calls you on it." Joy was practically pleading now. "Can we please just move on from this? Samuel, I'm sure Whoopi didn't mean—" "Don't speak for me, Joy," Whoopi interrupted. "I meant exactly what I said." "Then back it up," Samuel said, his voice rising. "Give me one example. One time. One place. One person who complained about me. Just one. If you can't do that, then admit you were wrong to bring it up." The audience was getting louder now. People were calling out in support of Samuel. Someone yelled, "Tell her, Sam!" Another person shouted, "She can't answer!" "Sit down," Whoopi said. It wasn't a request. It was a command, like she was talking to a child. "Excuse me?" Samuel said. "I said sit down," Whoopi repeated. You're a guest on my show. I can ask whatever questions I want. And there it was. The real issue. Whoopi had said, my show. Like she owned it. Like she had total control. Like Samuel was supposed to just accept whatever she dished out because she was the host. Samuel laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had just seen something clearly for the first time. Your show, he repeated. Right. I see what this is about now. Sunny put her hand on Whoopi's arm. Maybe we should take a commercial break, she suggested quietly. Whoopi pulled her arm away. We're not taking a break, she said. Samuel needs to answer my questions. I don't need to do anything, Samuel said. His voice was steel now. I'm a grown man. I've earned my place in this industry, and I'm not going to sit here and be lectured by someone who clearly has an agenda. An agenda, Whoopi said, raising her voice now too. My agenda is the truth. My agenda is holding people accountable. Accountable for what? Samuel demanded. You still haven't said what I supposedly did. You're speaking in generalities and hiding behind this idea that you're just asking questions. But you're not. You're attacking me. Whoopi leaned back in her chair with this smug expression. I'm attacking you. Please, I'm having a conversation. Maybe you're just not used to people questioning you. Questioning me? Samuel's eyebrows went up. You haven't asked me a single question. You made statements. You told me I'm difficult. You told me I'm demanding. You told me I think I'm above people. Those aren't questions. Those are judgments. And they're based on what? What exactly did I do? I already told you, Whoopi said. I've been hearing things. From who? Samuel pressed. Give me one name. One specific example. One actual incident that you're concerned about. Can you do that? The silence that followed was deafening. Whoopi's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. She clearly didn't have an answer. She had started this whole confrontation without any real evidence to back it up. Sarah spoke up again, her voice shaking a little. I think maybe we're all getting a bit heated, and we should... Stay out of this, Sarah, Whoopi snapped. The audience gasped. You could hear it ripple through the studio. Whoopi had just snapped at her own co-host, live on air. Things were spiraling completely out of control now. Samuel pointed at Whoopi. That right there, he said. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You think you can talk to people any way you want. You think because you're sitting in that chair, you have some kind of authority over everyone. But you don't. Not over me. Then leave, Whoopi said. Just like that. Cold and flat. If you don't like how things are done here, leave. The studio went dead silent. Even the audience stopped murmuring. Everyone was frozen, waiting to see what would happen next. Samuel stood there for a moment. He looked at Whoopi. Then he looked at the other hosts. Joy had her hand over her mouth. Sunny was staring at the table. Sarah looked like she wanted to disappear. Alyssa was shaking her head slightly. Then Samuel looked out at the audience. Some of them were nodding at him, supporting him, encouraging him. They knew what he was about to do. They knew it was the right thing to do. You know what? Samuel said finally. Chus, I will. He reached up and unclipped the microphone from his shirt. He placed it on the table in front of him, carefully and deliberately. The sound it made when it hit the table echoed through the silent studio. The whole time, he never took his eyes off Whoopi. Don't be childish, Whoopi said, but her voice had lost some of its edge. She was starting to realize how bad this looked. Childish? Samuel repeated. What's childish is making accusations you can't support. What's childish is refusing to have an honest conversation. What's childish is thinking that being in charge means you can do whatever you want without consequences. There you go again with the drama, Whoopi muttered, but she wouldn't look at him now. This is ridiculous, she said louder, trying to sound confident again. No, Samuel said. What's ridiculous is that you invited me here and then decided to make this into some kind of power play. And what's ridiculous is that you can't have a conversation without turning it into a confrontation. What's ridiculous is that you're so used to people backing down from you that you don't know what to do when someone stands up to you. Joy found her voice again. Samuel, please, let's just talk about this, she said. She sounded desperate now. She knew this was going to be a disaster for the show. But Samuel shook his head. There's nothing to talk about, Joy. I appreciate you trying to keep the peace, but this is beyond that now. Whoopi made her choice when she decided to come at me with baseless accusations. I'm making my choice to walk away from this disrespect. Whoopi stood up now, too. Fine, walk away, she said. Run away like you can't handle being challenged. Challenged? Samuel's voice was sharp. Is that what you think this was? A challenge? You don't challenge someone by spreading rumors about them. You don't challenge someone by refusing to have a real conversation. You challenge someone by engaging with them honestly and directly. But you didn't do that. You wanted to embarrass me on your show, in front of your audience, and it backfired. The audience started clapping again, louder this time. They were fully on Samuel's side now. You could see Whoopi's face getting red. She was angry, but more than that, she was embarrassed. This wasn't going the way she planned. Deke, get out then, Whoopi said. Her voice was shaking now, either from anger or from the realization that she had messed up badly. Get off my stage. Samuel didn't even respond to that. He just turned and started walking toward the exit. But before he got far, he stopped and turned back one more time. You know what the saddest part of this is? He said, looking at Whoopi. I actually respected you. I've admired your career for years. But this is beneath you. Or at least, as I thought it was. I guess I was wrong. And with that, he walked off the stage. The camera stayed on the panel. Whoopi sat back down, her arms crossed. She looked defiant, but you could see something else in her eyes too. Maybe doubt. Maybe regret. The other hosts looked shell-shocked. Joy cleared her throat. Well, she said, trying to sound normal, but failing completely. That was unexpected. No, it wasn't, Sunny said quietly. We all saw where this was going. Whoopi shot her a look. What's that supposed to mean? Sunny took a breath. She looked nervous, but determined. It means that maybe, just maybe, you pushed too hard this time, Whoopi. Samuel came here as a guest. He didn't deserve that. Oh, so now you're on his side? Whoopi said. Her voice had an edge to it, like she was warning Sunny to be careful. There shouldn't be sides, Sarah jumped in. Her voice was stronger now. Maybe seeing Sunny speak up gave her courage too. That's the point. This was supposed to be an interview, not a confrontation. We're supposed to make guests feel welcome, not attack them. I didn't attack anyone, Whoopi insisted. But even she didn't sound convinced anymore. Alyssa spoke carefully. Whoopi, I think what everyone is trying to say is that the conversation went in a direction that maybe wasn't productive. Samuel asked for specific examples, and I don't owe him specifics. Whoopi cut her off. I asked legitimate questions. But they weren't questions, Joy said softly. They were accusations. And when he asked you to back them up, you couldn't. Whoopi looked around at her co-hosts. You could see her realizing that they weren't backing her up. Not this time. The audience was still murmuring. Some of them were even booing now. The whole thing had turned into a complete mess. Someone in the audience yelled, "You were wrong, Whoopi." Another voice called out, "Apologize." Fine, Whoopi said. Think what you want. I stand by what I said. But even as she said it, you could tell she didn't really believe it. She knew she had crossed a line. She knew she had let her ego get in the way of doing her job. And worst of all, she knew that Samuel had been right. About all of it. Alyssa tried to salvage something from the wreckage. I think we can all agree that emotions ran high today, she said. And maybe there are lessons for all of us in how we communicate with each other. But it was too late for diplomacy. the damage was done. Samuel was gone. The interview was over. And everyone watching knew exactly what they had just witnessed. They had watched a host abuse her position. They had watched her try to bully a guest. They had watched her co-hosts try to stop her and fail. And they had watched a man with integrity stand up for himself and walk away with his dignity intact. Joy looked at the camera. "We're going to take a quick break," she said. Her voice was tight. You could tell she was struggling to keep it together. "We'll be right back." But as the show cut to commercial, everyone in that studio and everyone watching at home knew the truth. This wasn't just a heated interview gone wrong. This was a moment that revealed something important about power and respect, and how some people think they can treat others just because they're in a position of authority. Samuel L. Jackson had come to The View to promote his movie and have a pleasant conversation. Instead, he had been forced to defend his character against vague accusations that Whoopi Goldberg couldn't or wouldn't back up with facts. He had been told to sit down and be quiet like a scolded child. And he had watched the host of the show treat him and her own co-hosts with disrespect. And he had made the choice that any person with self-respect would make. He walked away. The thing is, Whoopi had choices too. She could have asked tough questions in a respectful way. She could have had an actual conversation instead of launching into accusations. She could have listened when her co-hosts tried to redirect the conversation. She could have admitted when things went too far. But she didn't. She doubled down. She got defensive. She tried to use her position as host to intimidate someone who wasn't going to be intimidated. And in doing so, she revealed something about herself that everyone could see. Power doesn't give you the right to disrespect people. Being the host of a show doesn't mean you can treat your guests however you want. And when you abuse that position, when you forget that your job is to have conversations, not confrontations, that eventually someone is going to stand up to you. That day, Samuel L. Jackson was that someone. The audience knew it. The co-hosts knew it. And deep down, even Whoopi knew it. Because when you watch that interview back, when you see how it unfolded, there's no ambiguity about who was in the wrong. There's no question about who handled themselves with class and who didn't. There's no debate about who came to have a conversation and who came to start a fight. Samuel walked onto that stage as a respected actor and guest. He walked off as someone who refused to be disrespected, no matter who was doing the disrespecting. He showed everyone watching that there are some things more important than playing nice for the cameras. Things like dignity, like self-respect, like refusing to let someone treat you badly just because they think they can. And Whoopi? She stayed in her chair, defending the indefensible, while her co-hosts looked uncomfortable and the audience booed. She proved that sometimes the person in the power position is the one who needs to learn the biggest lesson. The irony is that if Whoopi had approached the interview differently, if she had been curious instead of confrontational, if she had asked real questions instead of making accusations, it could have been a great conversation. Samuel is known for being thoughtful and articulate. He's done hundreds of interviews where he's talked about difficult topics with grace and honesty. But you can't have a good conversation with someone who's already decided you're guilty of something. You can't have a productive dialogue with someone who sees themselves as judge and jury. You can't have mutual respect with someone who thinks being the host means they get to talk down to you. That's what this moment revealed. Not just about this one interview, but about a broader truth. Respect is earned, not demanded. Authority comes from how you treat people, not from where you're sitting. And when you forget that, when you let your position go to your head, eventually it's going to catch up with you. For Samuel, walking off that stage was probably easy in some ways. Yes, it meant cutting short an interview. Yes, it meant creating a moment that would be talked about and analyzed. But it also meant refusing to participate in his own disrespect. It meant showing everyone that no amount of fame or success obligates you to accept poor treatment. The other hosts clearly felt torn. You could see it on their faces throughout the exchange. They wanted to support their colleague, but they also knew she was wrong. They tried to intervene, tried to redirect, tried to smooth things over. But Whoopi wasn't having it. She was committed to her course, even as it became clear that course was leading nowhere good. Joy's attempts to change the subject were gentle but persistent. She could see the train wreck happening in real time. Sarah's efforts to find middle ground were diplomatic. Sunny's quiet support for Samuel toward the end was telling, and Alyssa's final attempt to extract some kind of lesson from the disaster was professional, even if it was futile. But none of it mattered, because Whoopi had decided this was going to be a confrontation, and nothing was going to change her mind. There's something important in that too. Sometimes, when someone is determined to create conflict, your only option is to remove yourself from the situation. Not because you're running away or because you can't handle it, but because engaging further only validates their behavior. Samuel understood that. He gave Whoopi multiple chances to course correct. He responded thoughtfully to her accusations. He tried to have an actual conversation. When it became clear that wasn't possible, when Whoopi literally told him to leave, he did. And he did it with his head held high. That's what made the moment so powerful. It wasn't about who could yell louder or who could get the last word. It was about someone recognizing when a situation had become toxic and choosing to walk away rather than sink to that level. The audience reaction throughout told its own story. At first, they were just confused, then uncomfortable, then actively supportive of Samuel. By the end, they were booing Whoopi. That doesn't happen often on talk shows. Audiences usually stay neutral, or they support the host out of habit. But this was different. What they watched was so clearly wrong that they couldn't stay silent. That's another lesson from this moment. People can tell when someone is being treated unfairly. They can recognize when power is being abused. They can see through attempts to justify bad behavior with claims of just asking questions or holding people accountable. The audience at The View that day saw exactly what was happening, and they let it be known where they stood. In the end, this wasn't really about Samuel L. Jackson and Whoopi Goldberg specifically. It was about a dynamic that plays out in workplaces and social situations everywhere. Someone in a position of authority decides they can say or do whatever they want. Someone else refuses to accept that treatment. A confrontation ensues, and everyone watching has to decide who they believe was right. In this case, the choice was clear. Samuel came as a guest and was treated like an adversary. He responded with strength but not aggression. He defended himself without attacking anyone else. He tried to de-escalate multiple times, and when it became impossible to proceed with dignity, he left. Whoopi, on the other hand, initiated the conflict with vague accusations. She refused multiple attempts by her co-hosts to redirect the conversation. She doubled down when challenged. She talked over and dismissed her colleagues. She told a guest to leave her show in anger, and then she tried to act like she had done nothing wrong. One person in that exchange behaved like a professional. One person behaved like someone who respects others and expects respect in return. One person showed what integrity looks like when it's tested. And it wasn't the person in the host chair. That's what made this moment so memorable. Not just the drama of it, not just the shock value of watching someone walk off a live show, but the clarity of it. The absolute certainty that anyone watching could have about who was right and who was wrong. Samuel L. Jackson walked off The View that day. But what he really did was walk away from disrespect. Walk away from a toxic dynamic. Walk away from someone who thought their position gave them permission to treat him poorly. And in doing so, he showed everyone watching that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to participate in your own mistreatment. No amount of fame or success makes you immune to disrespect, but also no amount of fame or success obligates you to accept it. Samuel proved that. He walked away when he needed to, and everyone knew he was absolutely right to do it.